Hi, welcome back to the shop. So if you're in a moderately small shop like this one, you want to do a more complicated or larger project, a lot of times you need to start planning really early ahead of that and work up to the project via a number of steps, including making jigs, fixtures, and additional tools just to get the project done. That's going to be the basis of this video today. I want to make a couple of different fixtures, jigs, for holding threaded objects that aren't going to be big enough to hold in the lathe and to also ensure a level of preciseness. They're going to be just like this. Now this is threaded 1/2 inch by 28, and it's 01 drill rod. We're going to be making one that's 5/8 by 24 and left-handed thread, 9/16 by 28 left-handed. So we're going to do that. We're going to make a couple other tools and fixtures in ramping up for a larger project that's going to have stacking tolerances, which means as we make more pieces of the project, precision is required at every level because one small inaccuracy could be translated and magnified on down by the end of the project. So we're just going to go ahead and get started on that.
So part of the first part of this project is going to be actually just cutting off our pieces of metal and showcasing my new toy. This is a bandsaw. It's a 4x6 vertical bandsaw, horizontal. Super handy to have in the shop. It took about 3 minutes to cut that piece of 3/4 drill rod. And then we're going to use the 4-jaw. The heaviness of the 4-jaw in this allows for a lot more momentum in the chuck, which has really helped on this smaller lathe with threading tasks. Threading can be pretty strenuous, especially at low speeds, especially with a variable speed lathe like this, where at the low speeds the motor isn't really giving its full oomph. But the other great thing about the 4-jaw is I can really dial it in and I get it to, within about 1/1000th accuracy, which is great. That's what I'm shooting for, is an accurate part here. I'm using some indexable carbide. This is actually a C2 grade. I think this is a set I picked up at Harbor Freight. Not because I necessarily needed the carbide. Well, I needed the carbide, but it had an angle. The set had an angle that I particularly needed, and I've been trying it on more materials, and I like it. C2 is not ideal for harder steels like this, but it's done pretty well on a wide variety of materials. At this point, all that's needed to be done is turning the 3/4 inch 01 drill rod down to 5/8 of an inch. That'll be the external diameter of our threads. A very important task right here is that I need to make sure that shoulder is perfectly square. That's going to be part of making sure that whatever's threaded onto it is tight and true. As you may have seen before, making a relief cut right here for the threads to finish on also really helps the process. Now these are 24 pitch, or 24 threads per inch is the thread pitch, or thread size. And I'm using another one of the indexable carbide cutters, and these have a radius on the tips of them, which is a little bit larger than most thread cutting tools typically have. But it seemed to work out pretty well. This was kind of a trial run. I wanted to see, because they cut great, and I wanted to see if they made a good thread. And truth be told, they really did. The threading process is pretty straightforward. The lathe is set so that the lead screw guiding the carriage turns at a ratio, when compared to the speed of the chuck, the speed of the workpiece, that it'll advance the tool enough to make that spiral, that helix. So the majority of the thread is cut, and then when we get to the last couple thousandths of an inch, it's tried with a couple pieces, or a work piece, to ensure the size of the thread that it mates up nicely. And because it's kind of a deep cut, when you take these final passes of the thread, there can always be a little bit of junk on there, so it's necessary to clean it up. But that's the 5/8 by 24 mandrel. Now this one's going to be a left-handed thread. This is 9/16 by 28, and the interesting thing about it is that it is for, well, it's originally for something that was supposed to be 9/16 by 24 left-handed, but that item was actually, I discovered recently that it was misthreaded, and it's a 28 threads per inch instead of 24 threads per inch. So making parts for that item is going to require a little bit more custom work on my end. But that's okay. So this is for anybody who may recognize those thread patterns. This is going to be for an FN-FAL for the muzzle device for one, and yeah. So mine was apparently threaded 28 instead of 24. Facing off, this particular mandrel will be is going to be pretty paramount, because the item to be threaded on the muzzle device for this platform, it's going to be indexing and squaring off of the forward end of the threads instead of the shoulder towards the rear. So this larger diameter will be part of a more or less a shoulder area. This will be the diameter of, well, the rest of the barrel of the item, and then the threads will be just barely more narrow than that. So you can see the area I'm turning down for the threads is a little bit shorter than the rest of the area I turned down, because there will be some elements of this part that I'm going to be screwing onto this that will slide over that diameter, if that makes any sense. Now, making the groove a little bit wider here, as you saw, I kind of double took the groove there so that I have a starting point. Now, the thing about left-handed threads, as you can see here, is that while for the conventional threads they move towards the headstock, or the tool does, we're moving away from the headstock. The lead screw's spinning the other way. This shaking and shuddering, I found out later, I had one of the bolts holding in one of my gears was loose, so that explains that. But anyway, so this is cutting left-handed threads. This is actually the first time I've ever done this. Everything, other than the direction of the tool and the lead screw, everything else is basically the exact same as conventional thread cutting on a lathe. It's arguably, I've been told, at least I've heard the argument that it's far easier because there's no risk of crashing the tool into a shoulder or the chuck or anything like that, which I get that. My opinion is that it's basically the same. The unfortunate thing about these threads is that I basically need to just simply check them with my thread gauge, and I'm kind of flying by the numbers here, kind of an instrument-guided approach. I don't have anything currently threaded in a female of this size and thread pitch. So once those are both done, I'm just going to mark them. It's really not necessary at this point. I know which ones are which. They're pretty obvious. But I've got a small, cheap stamp set, so why not? And I know you're not supposed to hit it twice, and you're not supposed to double strike it, but I can never get it right on the first 3 tries, so...
So anyway, there you have it. Pretty basic projects here. Like I said, that one was already made. And then the 5/8 and then the 9/16. So these will be handy to help with future projects. These mandrels will be good for indexing threaded items, female threaded items on the lathe that don't have a big enough area to actually grab in the chuck. Such as something like this, where it's threaded in the end. Now I can zero this, screw this on, and then turn the profile on the outside. So this will be part of a future project that I'm in the process of making all sorts of jigs such as this for. And you'll see more of that here in the relative future. But that's all there is to this. This is 01, this is drill rods, so I could harden these if I wanted to. I don't think there's a need to. If I notice it deforming at all under the pressure of cutting, then maybe. But I think it'll be hardy and stout enough as is. So anyway, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more videos from the shop.